today's very exciting episode is something that you really need to understand, and I really need to help you understand it. It is, because you've heard this word, all about semi-mounts. So many of you have bought these beautiful gemstones and wanted to do something with them. You always you put it off, you think about it later, because many times it's just the gemstone purchase you start with. Well, I want to give you the knowledge and the courage to be able to take it to that next step, to be able to take that gemstone and enjoy it on your hand or as a pendant. Get it out of the safety deposit box. You bought it so you could enjoy it. I want to show you just how that can be done, because there are things that can and can't be done, and that's what's important. I don't want you to come away disappointed in what your choice may end up being because of something that wasn't sized in millimeters correctly. We're going to talk about that. Or because it just didn't fit the mounting like you thought it should. Well, many times, often just kind of due to the client, jewelers are forced, and I know I was one and had a retail store for many years, forced into trying to please the client when a particular mounting really just wasn't right for that stone. We're going to show you why some things work and why some things don't, and help you understand it so that you're comfortable with the process, and we're going to get that stone on your hand. Millimeters are used universally in the industry to measure gemstones. Now, basically, this is just kind of a side note, but you do want to make a note of it so that you understand millimeters, roughly 25 millimeters to an inch. But when you are measuring gemstones, it is all about the millimeter. Forget about anything in inches. Don't tell your jeweler your stone's 3/8 of an inch by 1/4 inch. That is not going to register, but the millimeters are. Now, how do you find the millimeters? Well, I know when you buy your stone at Gem Shopping, the millimeters are almost universally always included in the description of your gemstone, and even often out to the 10th place. Now, if for whatever reason you lost that information, a little simple device called a millimeter gauge is available at almost all craft and hobby stores. They're only a few dollars, and they will give you enough accuracy to be able to work with that dimension in translating it to your jeweler, or for you to do your own homework in going to the website and looking at semi-mounts that may potentially work for your mounting. Now, millimeters, you can, with this one, I have a fancy one that takes it out to the hundreds, and that's important in diamonds and other items, but for most gemstones, especially the bigger they go, you can just use the whole number. But what is more important than anything in that whole number is something called calibrated. There's a whole series of numbers that we call calibrated sizes. Those are sizes that semi-mounts and mountings are pre-made for already. In other words, you don't have to have something custom done for it to fit that particular stone. Some of the numbers that you'll hear are 9x7, 10x8, 12x10. Even some odd ones like 15x11 has become a calibrated size. 16x12. In the rounds and in the trillions, you have your whole sizes, and you're in the rounds, in the small ones, they get down to even 1/10 of sizes, like 3.2 millimeter. And I'll show you heads that accommodate those. This is 6-prong head, and in many cases it comes with a little peg at the bottom, or a peg is actually and can be cut from the metal at the bottom, and it actually will lower the head if you wanted a lower profile. All these are options you can discuss with the jeweler or with the sales rep in the specifics on the work order. Now, what happens is this particular head gets lowered into this mounting, and solder is a lower temperature metal of the same carat of the ring you're working with. That will adhere. that head to that mounting permanently. It occurs under high temperatures and is very secure because remember, we mentioned the peg, and you can actually see where there's a center opening for what would be the peg in this mounting. Now, this type of mounting will accommodate anything from a 1/4 carat, which would look appropriate, to a 1.5 carat or a 2 carat. Very adaptable mounting. Emerald cuts, you can split it open and so the world is yours. In the side of it, you can even flush set round diamonds as well. So options, options, options. Now, in this other style head, because remember, these style heads will carry universally across other mountings. So when we're touching on them now, we'll also be giving you the same education you need later on other styles. Now, this one is called a basket setting for obvious reasons, the 2 levels creating a basket type effect, and same thing, it gets lowered into the setting. Now you can open or bring in that mounting accordingly depending on the size stone you're using, and therefore you can create a gap between the stone and the mounting, or bring it in as close as you want, and it gets soldered into the center like that as well. This is where you can also change the color. Let's say the shank, the mounting itself, is yellow gold. Most diamonds are set in white gold because it makes the diamond look whiter. Or let's say you want to use a rose gold head because it's a morganite, or another choice to match whatever gemstone. That's where you become part of the process in creating your own custom look. What we have next are 2 mountings that I've set up. Very delicate stones, of course, opals and emeralds, something I specialize in. But anyway, now, as you can see from the side, this is just a bigger version of a basket style setting. Now, your options, well, here, your options are only limited by how it would look if you tried to put a smaller stone in it. With a big stone like it is, or even a stone several millimeters smaller, it would look fine. But if you tried to put like a 1 carat in the middle, or if you wanted it to sit lower, that's where, yes, technically it can be done. Aesthetically, it would not look right. And that's where people's taste come into play, because that's where, count on your goldsmith or your jeweler or even your friend to help you say, that may not look quite in proportion to the rest of the mounting. Keep that in mind. Other than that, you have options, because the head, and I'll show you from the inside of this, on this ring, has actually been added to it. And you can often tell there'll be little solder marks, and I'll show you those. They're usually little discolored areas right where the solder is, because this hasn't been polished and finished yet. Right where the head is, right in there. That entire head, and that's what we call it, has been added to the ring. And that is where you can interchange them as well. This, you have many more options than the other one, because you don't have length in the design of the diamonds. Therefore, you could put a small stone. The only thing that you have to take into account is the height. You can see that it would be squatty if you took a small stone and tried to set it low. The height that the diamonds are at needs to be the beginning height of whatever stone you put in there. But as long as you're willing to raise that stone, even a 1 carat or a 1/2 carat round would look just fine in this mounting. So many options. And why I tell you this, because many times you probably hear the host saying, oh, we can just change the head out on that ring. And you're saying, what are you talking about? That can't be done, or that wouldn't look right. Well, yes, it would, and they are correct. Sometimes they need a little assistance from the goldsmith as to exactly what can and can't be done, but I'm helping you to understand the technical aspect so that you can also put the 2 and 2 together and see why it wouldn't look right. Now, what I just showed you were 3 of the easy end of the scale of mountings that will work for your stone. Probably 75% of the situations you're going to come across and that you like will be in that category. But there may be some, and we're going to show you, that start getting into the category that it's a little harder to say yes. This is one that I said, yes, it's doable, but we start getting into some other complications, not that would make it a complete not possible to do, just that you have to think about it. And other things come into play, like finger size. Yes. Okay, look at this mounting. Obviously, it's a wide setting. It is made for a bigger stone. Don't let yourself be talked into, or your own mind say that you want to put an undersized stone in there. That's where you have the control. And because, you know, oftentimes, whether it's in any other situation, a jeweler will sell you what he thinks that you want, but it may not be right. What would not be right for that mounting is a stone smaller than it should be. And as soon as you start getting into a stone that is not as wide as the mounting, that's when you have to start considering that disproportionate look. Now, it can be done because this head is just that, a head. It can be sawn out or removed if it's soldered in. We'll look at it from the back side. We could actually totally cut that head out and put another one in there. Okay, so let's say we accomplish that. But what finger size do you need? Because here is where you could be disappointed. The way these stones are set with the channels like that is the best way and direction for a stone to be set if it's going to be sized. In other words, if the channels run across the mounting, as you open or close the ring for the finger size, it's going to move those channels away from the stones or push them closer. One is going to loosen the diamonds, the other is going to crush them. This is where it takes a little bit more of an accomplished goldsmith. But yes, this head can be, in this case, I'm going to use the word carved. Not just cut out, but it has to be configured and cut and carved around the other diamonds here. But it can be removed. And another head can be placed in there. But here's where the limits really can become a problem. We just talked about horizontal and vertical channel setting. Just to refresh your memory, let me show you the other ring and we'll compare them side by side. The channels on the ring on your right that we just showed you go with down the side of the finger, okay? In other words, you can see the difference in the direction of the rows. This, the one on your left, if you size this ring down, what happens, it pulls that lower channel away from those baguettes, and you'll pretty much spend the rest of your life trying to keep those stones tightened. You'll lose one. It is only a matter of time, because you know what happens? As soon as that diamond gets, and this applies across the board with all your jewelry, as soon as that diamond starts to become a little loose in the mounting, well, guess what? That diamond is a hardness of 10. That gold ring is a hardness, or platinum, of a 2.5 or 3. It doesn't stand a chance against that wiggling diamond, that girdle in there, ever so slightly vibrating nonstop all day long when you wear it. And so how long do you think it takes to cut it out from the inside outwards? Not long at all. And the faster and the bigger of an area that it cuts, the faster it starts cutting. You get grit, you get dirt. All of a sudden, you have an abrasive in there. Any mud you get in there, Mud is silicon dioxide. Silicon dioxide is quartz. Quartz is a hardness of 7. That is just more abrasive. People don't think about it. When I explain it to them like that, then they start understanding, because we all know that abrasives, whether it's Comet on the kitchen counter to get rid of that coffee stain, abrasives cut and they work. And in the case of your ring, they work as well. You would think that something like this ring with that big, beautiful emerald would be something limited in its sizing. No, this is the easiest one of the 3. And let's look at why. For one thing, if the stone is in there, it actually comes out rather easy. It's not bezel set, so it can be removed for different servicing or changing the head or sizing the ring. But let me show you. This is a basket head. No more, no less. Let's look at it from the inside. And you can see exactly that. You can look at the entire base. So guess what? With heat, that entire head pops right up out of there. You can change it out. The only thing you're limited by is the proportions of the center stone against the rest of the mounting and how it would look. The neat thing about this particular ring is the slight curvature to the side stones lends itself to cushion cuts, to ovals, to rounds. Many, many choices you have there. That makes all 3 of these workable. Here are a few that you just might have to be told no, that you can't have for your particular stone. Starting from left to right, this one pretty much easy. When's the last time you had a stone that would fit that mounting exactly? But it's just not that. Even if you tried to take the head that was made as part of this mounting out of there, nothing will look right going back in to this mounting. That is made for a custom cut stone to go back in there, or what I often suggest is a piece of opal or a piece of black onyx or a piece of lapis, something that has to be cut. Let's just say you love the semi-mount, you love the ring. So then that's what you have to do, is you just have another nice piece of cabochon material made to go in it. Beautiful mounting, huh? Well, there's a couple things that are gonna hold you back on being told yes if you have anything but the exact 2-to-1 ratio on the marquee. And what do I mean by the 2-to-1 ratio on a marquee? Well, a properly cut marquee, and that is the shape that you'll find, and a lot of people like to say the football shape. That's the wrong proportions. But the marquee is the one that's pointed at both ends. Now, what I mean by that is that the length should exceed the width in a 2-to-1 ratio. If it's 10 millimeters long, it needs to be 5 millimeters wide. That's the proper dimensions of marquee. Within reason, within a range, should be cut to. If you don't, you end up what we call the football type of look, or even sometimes what we call the marquee oval. Now, you can see you are absolutely limited by the length. Once you're limited by the length, well, in a marquee, you're going to be limited by the width. The additional negative to this is the side of the ring. Even though the diamonds stop just past halfway down, well, what occurs is these are even set with little shared prongs. When you start bending that shank down to close in the piece you took out of it, well, you start pulling those prongs away from the other diamonds. Once you start doing that, then you get into the loose diamond scenario. We just talked about that. You want to stay away from that. Hey, size down, no problem. A size up, no problem. But size is a consideration. Unless you have the exact dimensions within a 0.5 millimeter or so, and the same cut within reason. In other words, being that that is an emerald cut center, yes, you could put a cushion to within a certain parameters of it in there, but Other than that, you are very limited in your choices. The head cannot be changed out. And that's that. You have to be told, no ma'am, your stone won't fit. You can see you're limited from behind as well in your options. And so you move on because you don't force something into a semi-mount that it's not made for. You'll end up disappointed, and to the ring and to the stone, you can lead to future damage. Here's another beautifully made ring. Your options, limited. You can actually on this one, because the way the prongs are angled out, and you can be your own, let's see, backseat goldsmith, so to speak. If you see those prongs angled out, well, common sense tells you that they could really be brought in and straightened up, and a smaller or a little bit larger stone can be made to fit in there. So yes, you can actually fit probably an entire millimeter's width versus length difference in what is there. But what you cannot do is change what is there. You have to work with what you have. Now, you can see from the inside, there's also a beautiful gallery. And once you start trying to do anything else, you're going to be messing up that gallery. You just don't want to do that. So this is one, work with what your goldsmith advises and with what your stone dimensions say are possible within there, and leave it at that, or pick something else. Here's another one, that beautiful ring. But again, you're controlled by the limitations of where the diamonds are set. You can't move those diamonds in and out. They're not going anywhere. They are there. They're made to be there, and they aren't and can't be moved. But because of the height of these prongs, look at the height of them, excuse me there, hold on. My left-handed ways get in the way. Those prongs are high enough that they can be brought in, cut down, lowered, etc., to give you options, again, maybe as much as a millimeter. In other words, when I say that, it could maybe fit a 10 by 8 down to a 9 by 7 or somewhere in between. But what can't be done, you can't change the head out, you can't change the shape out within reason. You know, a cushion, yes, something like that. Okay, these 4 mountings, these are high-end goods. These are made up, they're set up, they're ready to go. These are meant for you to walk in, buy them as they are. These are not for you to play musical mountings with, and end of story. The reason being, real quickly, you have this ring, look at it. What holds that diamond in on the side? The head that holds the emerald in. It's called back set. It goes back underneath that head. You don't mess with either stone. End of story. This next one, gorgeous spinel. Look at the side of the design of the ring. That design is made as part of the entire ring's design. That is not meant to be touched with, messed with, or changed. If you do, it looks aftermarket, and it looks like you messed with it, changed it, and altered it. Same thing with this. You see the way the center head matches the outside too. Beautiful crystal barrel. It has a wonderful shank. Why touch it? Leave it alone. Buy it as it is. The most you can do on this, change out the center stone if you want, because you certainly don't want to change the head. Now, talking about not changing anything, it's this beautiful piece. Rose gold bezel, that stone, one of the most technically set kind of stone setting there is. Hammer set, cushion cut emerald. You have diamonds down the side. You barely size this ring. That's it. You can size it up maybe 3/4 of a size. You can size it down through use of balancing beads or a inner spring, and that's it. You buy it as it is and hope it's a Cinderella fit. then you know it's made for you. Now, I hope we just showed you, 12, 16 different examples of styles of mountings, some set, some not set, but with those demonstrations, I hope it gives you a further understanding of the parameters that work and that a jeweler has to work within to be able to create and further the beauty of the original design. The worst thing that can happen is to create or do something that lessens the beauty and the original intent of that gorgeous design. So, with that understanding, give and have the confidence of that you should have from watching gem shopping all these years and having purchased that beautiful gemstone. Now, get the beautiful semi-mount that has a package. It'll be your creation and something that you and your thoughts and your imagination helped to produce a one-of-a-kind finished product that'll become the heirloom that it's meant to be. I've enjoyed the time spent with you, and I look forward to another episode in the How Do You series.